help with terrains in that people are having problems with, and most of these issues have been brought up on Chief Talk, so they're common problems. Um, One of the things that I like to do, and it's not a must, it's just something I do. It's fine for people that have got a really fast computer. I've just got a 2060 RTX laptop, and I like to turn off auto build terrains, and I'm used to that. So I just do it with, I tell it to build the terrain with a shortcut key, or I think you call it hotkeys. Tools. But you don't have to do this, it's just something I like to do because I can control when the terrain's getting built. Customise hotkeys. I come down here. I'm just searching for build terrain. I was typing in the word build, and I've actually got a hotkey for it called Control Q. You could make it anything you want, but that's something that I do. So that when the terrain gets built is controlled by me. Terrain settings. I come in here and I turn off automatically straight away, and you'll notice I've got auto rebuild terrain turned off. That's because I'm controlling that with the shortcut key Control Q. I've got my terrain in this particular model set to -2000, and it's below 0, and that's the height of the 0 contour in the terrain. I'll give you a demonstration of what I'm talking about there. We'll come in here, we'll take a camera shot. Well, actually, there it is there. There's 0 of the terrain. That contour there represents 0 within the terrain. So every other height that's 100 mil above it, that's 200 mil below it. And that's how the heights work in terrains, and you sort of got to get your head around that, otherwise you're in big trouble. And to give you a demonstration of where you'll notice that 0 line lands right on the top of this retaining wall. So we'll take a camera shot of that and I'll show you what I mean. Hang on, what have we got? Oh yeah, there we are. Camera's got low for some reason. So the top of that retaining wall is 0 of the terrain, and that point comes from 0 of the floor, and it's, as I say, it's a critical element that you know it. I'm using the wrong dimension tool there. Escape. I just wanted the oh no, that'll do. End to end will do. So floor level's probably up about here somewhere. I think there's about 300 mil of joists. We come down to here, and the top of that retaining wall should be about 2 meters. So it's gone a bit further because I probably didn't start in the right spot at the top. We'll go up a bit more, see if we can get it to be 2 meters on top of the wall. I didn't get a dimension then, I don't think. Escape. Pick the dimension tool. So from the top of the wall up to there, which will be the top of the subfloor. I'm not getting a dimension for some reason in the line. Anyway, it's 2000 millimeters below the top of the subfloor. So that's a key element. You've got to understand that all your heights are working from that point. So if you put a height into the terrain elevation data and say 100 mil, it's not 100 mil below subfloor, top of subfloor. It's 100 mil below the top of the 0 elevation in the terrain, and that's a critical element that you need to understand. I'll go back to terrain settings. There's a bit more I want to touch on there. Hang on, where's me? This is it here. I'll I've got things messed up here a bit. Oh no, it's this one. Right, so we'll go back to those settings. So that's what that minus 2000 represents. That's actually 2000 below zero within Chief, and all the modelling components in Chief that work from zero. So the skirt set at flat, you can set that at whatever you want. You can set it to follow the terrain or flat. That doesn't matter. It just depends on the look you want. Terrain surface smoothing, I like to set that to low because I like full control of the shape of the terrain, and that gives me the most control I can get. Triangle count, I usually use low. If I was having trouble getting things to shape, I might test it on medium, but I like to keep it low. And hide terrain intersection by building. What that means, it's going to cut the terrain out around the edge of the building depending on what level the terrain is drawn on, and I'll go into that in a little bit more later. So that's about all from that section, at least for a 3D model anyway. Multiple data. If you don't have multiple pieces of height data, and what that is are these elevation lines, or it can be any sort of height data. It can be these little elevation points, elevation lines, even splines, which I never use. I don't know why, but I'm a bit worried they're going to overload the terrain. Yeah, you must have multiple pieces of data, and I've got a file here to demonstrate it. So I'll take a camera shot of this. And this terrain's actually got two pieces of data, one minus 10,000 and I think one plus 10,000 up here. But if I delete one of those pieces of data, hang on, I'll get myself there. Not that one, what's this one? This one here. If I delete one of them and only have one piece of elevation data, which is one elevation line or point or whatever, if I delete that, the terrain will end up being flat. So if I come across to here, see how the terrain went flat? This terrain's actually set to auto build. I might change it to show you how you change it. So turn off auto build terrain. Now it'll only change that when I tell it to, when I hit Control Q. So if I come back here and put that data back in by going Control Z, now the data's back in. Now once again the terrain will now have shape, so it'll have a slope in it. But if I left that data out, it'd just be a flat terrain. So that's what we mean by when we say you've got to have multiple pieces of data. I think that's got that covered. Yeah, I think it has. So I'm going to get rid of this file now. I might go Control Save. Control S. Save it. Oh yeah. Cancel. I'll just get rid of it. I want to save it. Save as. Put it in X17. Save. So now I can close that down and get back to the normal view. Try an example. Right, so I've just cleaned that up a bit. So multiple data's covered. Elevation data standout. This is really important for a new beginner. I actually think it's important for everyone because it keeps them in touch with what's going on. They don't have to scratch their head and have a missing piece of data line that they can't see. So what I do is, you'll notice my lines are bright blue You can make it any colour that suits you, and the line weight is thick. So I've selected the line, gone into the elevation data layer and changed it to 200mm line weight. Imperial, that'd be a different number, but whatever you want to make it. It's just so that the line's thick. I'll make sure I turn on show line weights, otherwise they won't show up. And that way I can troubleshoot. I've got something shows me what's control on the height of the terrain, and it sort of stands out and it's easy to see. So that's why I do that, and it's perfect for a beginner. And I actually believe that it's good for everybody because it's very easy to draw lines and forget what you've done. So that's multiple data, elevation data standout, overlapping data. Alright, this is probably the biggest cause of people's problems. I've got an elevation region in here, an elevation region in here, and one in here, and they're two different heights, and I'll show you what I mean. Nothing like a picture to explain it. So here's the two garden beds up here. So you've got one height here and one height there. So we'll come back here, and I'm going to do something that I consider to be the wrong thing to do. Cross the data over to show you what happens. I've just got to tab down until I get the right one, and you'll see elevation region is the one that I've now selected. So I'm going to drag that line in over there, and that's then going to be crossing this elevation region, which I'll have to try and get for you. Tab down. Have I got it? Yeah, so it's now crossing over the other elevation region, and it's going to cause trouble for Chief. It's not going to know what to do with it. We'll come over here and we'll go Control Q, which is build the terrain, and see how the retaining wall is now crippled and it doesn't know what height to make it. Parts of it's high, parts of it's low. It's just doing, it's getting tripped up because I've given it bad information. I've told it to do something that it can't do. It's got two sets of heights in the same spot, and Chief says, well, I don't know what to do with that. I'm just going to have a guess that this is what you want. But it's the wrong thing to do. So we'll come back here and then we'll fix that up. Drag this back. Now we don't have crossing elevation data. Go Control Q. Actually, we'll go back to the camera and do Control Q, which is build the terrain, and it's fixed. So that's what happens when you got crossing data. I'm going to give you a few more examples of that because everybody makes this mistake. Well, everybody that's learning anyway. Here's another example of crossing data. We've got two different heights here. So I'm going to pull this into here, and then we'll go back to here and we'll go Control Q, build the terrain. Once again, Chief says I'm unhappy and I'm going to give you a messed up retaining wall, and that's exactly what it did. So we'll go back and get rid of the crossing data. Control Q, and it'll be happy again. And we'll have a quick look so you can see what I mean. So that's what happens when you cross data over. Here's another good example down here. There's actually some ripples in this footpath that I haven't figured out yet. So we've got minus 200 here and minus 700 here in this area here. If I select this, what happens when I select that? Yeah, that elevation region is minus 700, so it goes from minus 200 to 700, which is a 500mm difference. So if we cross this data over, which is what I'm talking about by overlapping data or crossing over data, it's going to mess this path up. And we'll go Control Q. We'll go back for a camera view in a second once it's done it. And there it is, a hump in the footpath. You can imagine walking up that, it'd go down real well, especially if you're drunk. You wouldn't work good at all. You'd be tripping over. So we can't have crossing data, and And it's like it builds a bad terrain, a terrain that doesn't work. Control Q, get rid of that again. So that's your crossing data. A couple of good examples. There's another one here that's, it's not what you'd call crossing data, but it's data, two different data heights getting too close together. And it's this one here. It's actually working reasonable at the moment. It's a bit funny, but it's working. So I'll pull this over close to that. We'll go back in here. You actually see a little bit of a ripple. That's because it was still already struggling a bit, but I've made it a whole lot worse. I'll go Control Q, build the terrain, and you can see Chief says, oh, I don't know what to do with that. There's too much information all in the one spot. Well, it's not all in the one spot, but it's a bit too close together. So it just wants a bit of breathing space to be able to bend the terrain. So if we get this and pull it back here, Control Q again, come back here, and you'll get to see it fix up. So that's what happens when you got data too close to each other. So that's another example. Foundation wall. Right. Here we've got a foundation wall that looks very much like a retaining wall, because it's got earth, it's stopping the earth going into the garage. But you don't actually, within the program of Chief, you don't want to call it a retaining wall. You just want to call it a foundation wall. If you call it a retaining wall, I'll give you an example of what happens. Come in here and we call this a retaining wall. Control Q will build the terrain. It doesn't like it straight away, but it's build the terrain. What it's done, it's brought it down to the top of the terrain, because that's what Chief does with retaining walls. And it doesn't like it. So I'm going to have to go back, select that wall, and change it back to just a plain foundation wall. And I think I've got to break it here. So now that it's become a plain retaining wall, a plain foundation wall, which I've deleted the retaining wall component, it'll be happy. And we'll go and have a look at it so you can see a demonstration. See how it's all starting to work now? So you can't call those walls retaining walls, even though they technically do retain the earth. You can't call on that within Chief, otherwise it'll mess your model up. Right, hole in terrain. There's a couple of ways you can go about a hole in the terrain. Chief automatically generates the hole in the terrain. And you've got a tool down here that make terrain holes around buildings. So let's click on that and see what happens. So now it's telling us that that's the hole that it's cutting around the building. And it's put a line in there so we can edit it and change it in whatever way we want. So let's go like that and see what happens. Control Q, you're going to get a big chunk of terrain missing. Hang on, I'll get it so it lets me move it around. And there it is. So now it's, see, that's the hole that the building would actually make in the land, in the terrain. So if you wanted to do something special with it to get it to go out and around a building or something, we'll use this little jut out here as an example. We'll break it. Bring that back to there. We'll break this. And this is the way you can control what happens with the hole in the terrain. So we'll go back here and we'll go Control Build. So now if let's say that brick jut out that's built on first floor actually come down all the way down, maybe because you dragged the walls down or for some crazy reason, it would then cut a hole out for that. But if I delete that line, it'll go back to doing it the automatic way, which is, I think it's what I'm going to do actually. So if I delete that, now it's just going to do the automatic hole in the terrain. So we come here and we go control build, control Q, sorry. So it's back to the way it was. I've got a few problems there, but I'm not worried about that at the moment. I need to troubleshoot that in my own time. As far as demonstrating tricky problems, this is good enough. It's interesting the terrain is bleeding up through there. That's another problem that I've got to sort out. Yeah, alright. Hold on, terrain. If you want to copy a terrain from one plan to another, there's a little bit of a process you've got to go through. And the process is, first you would copy the terrain perimeter. So you'd go edit, copy, paste. So edit, copy it. And then you might open up a new plan. You want to copy it into this new plan, and I'll get rid of this one because we don't want that terrain. Edit, paste, hold position. So that puts it back in the exact same spot, which is important if you're copying other data. So now we'll go back to there, and I'll just pick a couple of pieces of data to demonstrate how it works. Oh, I don't know, I'll just pick this one. And I'll pick this one down here. Have I got that right? I hope so. So edit, copy, but you can do it different ways. You can click the copy tool down the bottom. So we'll come across to this new plan and we'll go, hang on, I've got it copied, but I forgot to convert this line to an actual terrain perimeter. So we'll do that first. That's what you've got to do when you copy a line in. It converts it to a plain CAD line or polyline, and you've got to convert it to a terrain perimeter, which is down here somewhere. Convert to a terrain perimeter, and now it's a terrain perimeter. I'll just leave all that up there for it's just a quick example of how you copy and paste from one plan to another the terrain. Edit, paste, hold position. So now we will now have a shaped terrain. Mightn't be built as yet. I might have to take a camera view. It's already shaped it up. Yeah, so that's how you do it. You've got to copy the terrain from one plan to the other, then convert it to a terrain perimeter within the new plan, and then copy your elevation data over, and it'll just work. It's the only way you can copy a terrain from one plan to another that I know of. There might be others, but I don't know. Alright, so that's got that. I'll get rid of that plan. We don't want that. Don't save that. Now, terrain import. Right, now I know what I'm talking about. When you import a terrain, or build a new terrain even, doesn't matter, when you're importing it, you actually get to import the data, the elevation data from the terrain that you've been supplied from your surveyor or something. And you don't want too much of the data, and I'll try and demonstrate that. Here we've got a height 1200, an elevation line down here at 800, and nothing in between. That's because I'm trying to minimise the data. The less data you got, the faster the terrain will behave and the easier it will be for Chief to generate it. If you've got too much data, Chief will get bogged down and really struggle with it. So you might just import from your surveyor's supplied file, you might just import the major contours and see if you can get away with that. And if you can't, you might have to copy a couple of minor contours to get the shape properly correct. But generally you can get away with the majors. So that's if I'm importing a terrain through Chief's Wizard or however you're doing it. Even if you're tracing over the top of another terrain, like an image or a PDF, you step around, you lower the amount of data you got, so you only trace over the major contours and a couple of the minor contours if you have to. You got to minimise it, and then that includes building your own terrain within Chief. You've got to once again minimise the amount of data. Retaining wall tops. Right. The tops of all walls have a control system that Chief uses. Chief likes to automatically control them, and when it does, it's happy. When you start messing around with the tops, Chief not a fan of it, but it'll let you get away with it by turning off the automatic control of the top of the wall. And I'll demonstrate that. Let's say this was actually meant to be a flat wall for some reason, I don't know why. But let's say it was meant to be a flat wall, not shaped the shape of the terrain. So you can just grab the wall, change its shape. What happens when we do this? It's not going to like that. What happens when I do that one? Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. I'll go Control Z. I'll grab one of the points. Grab the wall and grab a point. That'll be better. And I'll drag that out there. So now it's got a different shape top to the actual terrain. And this works with all the walls in your model. If you, I'll give an example. Let's say I drag this brick wall down, because sometimes you might want to do it. It's not a good behaviour, but sometimes you do need to do it. And once you've done that, Chief loses its automatic control over the top of the wall, so it lets you control the model. So if we open that wall up, you come under the structure tab, you'll see the default wall top is now unticked. So if I re-tick that and go OK, one, it'll put that wall back. It won't put this one back until I rebuild the terrain. So if I tick that, I don't think it'll go back. No, it wants me to rebuild the terrain. Control Q, which I've just clicked on, and that's how it works. So tops of, because it's very easy to start messing with the top of a retaining wall and forget that you've done it, and then you can't understand why Chief can't get it to draw nice. Well, that's why, is because you've edited it and it's unticked that setting automatically because you edited the wall. Things don't stop working properly, so you've got to keep that in mind. That's another tip. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, there is one other thing. These gutters, I put a moulding on the shape of a gutter that you would actually use in Australia, but Chief can't handle the surfaces, so sometimes I'll just put a slab in there or something and try and fix it. There's no real easy way around that. Yeah, no, I think that's it. I'll stop at that. That should get you up and running. That should cover all the things that you're going to mess up and enable you to fix them. Alright, thank you.